Every morning when I'm done with my meditation practice, I finish up by drawing a tarot card, by pulling a tarot card out of the deck, and then using that image to kind of culminate the practice, right? And I specifically pull a card thinking in mind what are the attributes of equanimity. What should I focus on to maintain equanimity? I'm using the card not as divination, but more as a reflection of current state. I do think that symbolic languages like tarot or the I Ching or runes or any of those kinds of tool sets are manipulated by some deep level of my awareness. And in some regards, that deeper level of awareness extends into what me right now thinks of as the future. But not in the sense that I would lay out a deck of cards and predict marriage or jobs or anything like that. What I do think is that it allows me to see a bit more clearly what my current filters or preoccupations might be. And, maybe it's not even as much as a Rorschach test. I don't know. But I find the images of the tarot particularly useful for this. I've used tarot decks since I was a teenager. I used the Thoth deck. It was the first deck that I really looked at towards the end of high school and through college. I was very enamored of sort of Western mystery tradition. I wouldn't say that then I knew anything about Aleister Crowley. I still don't know a whole lot about him, but I used the Thoth deck and the Book of Thoth, which was Crowley's interpretation of tarot. And that probably has stuck with me in terms of how to use tarot. But I've used a lot of different decks in my life, and currently I'm using a deck called the Old English deck. And I just want to take a moment here and talk about it. I don't think it particularly matters what the theme is for the deck, as long as it's a theme that you like. I find this deck quite wonderful. The images themselves are very standard. The sort of traditional Waite Rider images that were popularized at the end of the 19th century. That forms the basis for most decks, and then like I say, the theme is essentially personal choice. I think it could be that that in your use of a deck, the images themselves are more important. The precision of the images is more important. I just want an image that has a story behind it, because when I read cards for myself, or on the rare occasions when I read for someone else, I look to see what story is being told by the card. And in fact, if I'm reading for someone else, before I try to do any kind of interpretation, I ask the person what they're seeing. Are they seeing a woman with a sword who looks fierce and brave, or are you seeing a woman with a sword who looks threatened? These are useful interpretive shifts from the card that I think are potent. They're useful. So I am looking always to deepen my commitment to practice and to strengthen my state of mind, my presence of mind, and all of that is bundled under the word equanimity for me. So when I sit at the end of my morning practice and I draw a card, I look at it through that lens. I say, what does this card have to tell me about my current relationship to equanimity. For a while, for example, I was drawing a lot of sort of mid to late suit swords, 7 of swords, 9 of swords. These are very conflicted cards, usually shown with people pierced by multiple swords, lying on the ground with 9 swords stabbed in their back, or things like that. And to me, the sword that represents intellectual conflict. And so if the question is, what is my path to equanimity today? And I draw something like the 7 of swords or the 9 of swords. It's telling me to take a step back and think that maybe I'm generating a lot of turbulence in my thought patterns, that there's conflict that is being created by my attachment to thoughts. Right? You can see how this ties in with Buddhist practice. So I do that, and last week I drew the star, which is the major arcana card 20. Sorry, just cut that bit out. Hang on a second. So last week I drew the card the star, which is card 17. I'll get a little close-up of that. And in all decks, this is the major arcana card. In all decks, there's the idea of water flowing out of some kind of vase or jug. And to me, it's the card of ecstatic inspiration. It's the card of the spirit, which is the other thing I do at the end of my meditation is I've been reading through some of the New Testament. I'm reading Romans right now, and I got really captivated by the idea of the law of the spirit that Paul talks about, how the spirit actually replaces the old law with sort of salvific beatitude. This card for me wraps all of that up. So my current answer to the path to equanimity is sort of openness to the weaving of light from the star being sort of cosmic, gentle, cosmic, creative energy, right? Sort of the image of the mind expanded by our understanding of the cosmos and receiving that. And that this is what the universe, and by universe I mean our lives. I mean our quotidian, mundane life is a fucking miracle, right? And we are blessed with the spirit, with creativity, with inspiration, to the extent that we are open to it. And as we open more to it, more is available. And so the path to equanimity today, for me, and for the last few days, because I've really been thinking about this a lot, is the discipline of the craft, extending my openness to the sort of spiritual gift of creation. Now, I don't mean to suggest that this would be the same for any of you if you were to end up with the same biblical scripture after the same Buddhist practice and drew the same card. What I'm suggesting is that there are tools that we all have that we can give meaning to and use to apply meaning to our lives. And meaning being meaning, understanding, or a framework, right? These are decisions that we make in our lives to choose meaning and to interpret meaning. Buddhism, the one path, the path of no self, the path of impermanence, has sort of a built-in expiration, right? When you realize the messages or the methods of the impermanence of self, well, what's left? You let go of the meditation, the scaffolding falls apart. But in the meantime, I find things like this quite wonderful, tremendously useful, and inspirational in the sense that this, the star, the light that promises, when cultivated, casts out the anxiety that would be maybe those swords, or the anxiety that comes from late-stage capitalism. So, have a think. See, maybe get yourself a tarot deck, and if you have questions about tarot, drop me a note. I'm not a tarot reader, but if you want to run some ideas by, or ask more specifically how I would do a reading, I'm glad to do that. I'm feeling very fortunate right now to have this wonderful overlay of sort of not particularly good biblical understanding, but I'm getting a lot out of reading the Bible. I have a well-established meditation practice, and I've put tarot on top of that into a mix. And there's just a lot of stuff out there that can cultivate positivity and generosity. So, keep your wits about you.